Shalom, my dear friends. Shalom today, the 21st day of the month of Shevat of this year of redemption, year 5783, corresponding to the 12th of January of the year 2023. And I will ask your indulgence for my having chosen a rather provocative title today for those who actually have some little knowledge of the language of Yiddish, where the word krechts actually means a moan or a groan or a sigh of despair. And of course, if you just change around the letters of the word krechts, you will actually get the English word that is spelled Christ. And as a Torah observant Jews, I am unable to use this English word Christ when referring to the idolatry that has been constructed by the church in the very much of the last 2,000 years. And since this is really an idolatry, let me emphasize that as to the individual to whom the whole movement of Christianity is attributed, without any shadow of a doubt, the entire subject of who he was and what he was is totally shrouded in mystery and from the very heart of the divine plan. And this is stated by Moses Maimonides, by Rambam, in the very last section of his comprehensive Torah code, the Mishnah Torah, the laws of kings, where in the final chapters he addresses the subject of who is the final and ultimate king of Israel, Melech Mashiach. And there he enumerates the conditions that are required for an individual to fulfill the role of being Melech Mashiach, including stirring the children of Israel to teshuvah, to repentance, and gathering in the children of Israel to the land of Israel. And this righteous individual will have the absolute presumption that he is Melech Mashiach if he succeeds in building the temple. Well, no matter what is attributed to the founder of Christianity, the alleged founder, is certainly not been the figure that has developed over the last 2,000 years that has been paraded by the established churches has certainly not brought the children of Israel to the level of teshuvah either that the church was expecting in, for example, such episodes as the Spanish Inquisition and other similar persecutions, and certainly not according to the standards of teshuvah as defined by the Holy Torah. And whatever has been the result of this movement, as Moses Maimonides, Rambam says in that section in the Laws of Kings in Mishnah Torah, in this subject so deeply shrouded in mystery, that both the emergence of the figure of Yeshua as a supposed Messiah, and also the figure of the founder of Islam, the Muhammad, that both of these emerged through the inscrutable wisdom of the creator of the world in order to spread some knowledge in a disguised form of the true Torah, but to spread this knowledge in this disguised form to all the ends of the earth. So when it comes to the actual individual to whom Christianity is attributed, it is completely impossible really to have any conclusive and undisputed idea about who he was. However, as to this individual, it is stated quite clearly in a work that is available for perusal by anyone in the world, stated by Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who was one of the outstanding Torah leaders of Orthodox Jewry in the 1700s, and who was confronted by the phenomenon of the new incarnation of Sabbatite Sevi, the false Messiah of the 1600s. And this new incarnation, known as Jacob Frank, was busy making converts in Europe, in Eastern Europe, and particularly in Ukraine. He was working very furiously with the church authorities. And Rabbi Yaakov Emden saw fit to warn the Christian authorities, to whom the Neo-Sabbateans, the Frankists, were turning to persuade them that their followers were bona fide Christians. Rabbi Yaakov Emden turned to the Christian authorities and said to them that these followers of Jacob Frank were not to be trusted, that they would not be authentic Christians. And in the letter in question, of which facsimile copies may be seen on internet, in the letter, which is authenticated, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, the leader of Orthodox Jewry in the 1700s, states that the founder of this movement, Yeshu himself, was actually an individual that was preaching to the nations of the world to fulfill the Noahide commandments. In other words, the universal commandments against idolatry and against blasphemy, and in favor of the service of God. And there Rabbi Yaakov Emden states clearly that both Yeshua and his chief follower, Paul, were aware that for the people of Israel, the observance of the Torah was not to be changed by one iota, and that the message of Yeshu was to bring the teachings of the Torah, the universal code of the Torah, to the nations. Well, now this is Rabbi Yaakov Emden speaking about the actual founder of Christianity. There are many different theories about who he was, where he came from, what he was, and it's not my purpose now to go into this subject, although a very great deal may be said about it. But it is quite clear, and this is clear to Christian scholars and to non-religious academic scholars, that whatever the origins of the movement were, by the time of the end of the first century of the Common Era, the first century AD, clearly the original episode had been distorted out of all recognition for purposes that have been discussed by historians, and it is quite clear that we cannot judge from the later development of the various churches exactly what the original figure who started all this was. What appears to have happened was that his ideas perhaps were commandeered and hijacked to serve as the basis for what became an entirely different structure that it would appear that he had never any intention to see develop. Now, the very same church that developed this concept of this Savior whose death was said to have atoned for all sins, and who was said to have been resurrected, and who was said to have been the Son of God, this same church was in earlier eras very aggressive in spreading the message to the point that very often not only were people who opposed the general idea of Christianity put to the sword, but also there were internecine battles between different sects of the later church in dispute with one another, leading to bloodshed, the disputes between the Catholics and the Protestants, and between various different sects all across the generations. And nevertheless, overall, there is in the church the overall idea that if there is to be the second coming of this alleged Savior, that there has to be a figure known as what I call the Anti-Krechts, the anti-moon that is to come before this terrible, catastrophic reign of evil. And why I wanted to discuss this today is because it both impinges on the present portions that we are reading in the book of Shemot, Exodus, having just come from the account of the giving of the Torah on Sinai, part 1 in the portion of Yitro that we read yesterday in the synagogue, and coming up this coming Shabbat, the portion of Mishpatim, which goes into very great detail to the laws of the code of the Torah, all of the basic fundamentals of what people call the Sinaitic code in the coming week's portion of Mishpatim, including at the end of it a second part of the account of the giving of the Torah prior to Moses ascending on Mount Sinai for the 40 days to receive the details of the Torah. And it's in this context of the significance of the receiving of the Torah at Sinai and the laws of the Torah that I wish to address this subject of the Anti-Krechts, because there are many theories spinning around. It's very interesting in our period, that our period of time, that it is now apparently permissible for anybody to get up and say whatever they want about Christianity and about the various figures involved. It's permissible to make satire and to debunk Christianity, which is not my intention to do at all today. It's the other religion of Islam that it is now politically incorrect to comment upon and to analyze for fear of being termed Islamophobic. And it's not my intention now to go into this subject either. What is my intention is to discuss certain theories that are flying around in this period where it's permissible to say anything you want about Christianity, certain theories about who is today's Anti-Krechts. And there are quite a number of candidates whose names have been mentioned to be in this role of this individual who comes up at the end of time to blind the eyes of all humanity, and particularly to blind the eyes of the Jews against receiving what the Christians consider to be the true Redeemer. And this subject cannot be separated from the overall subject of what historians have termed as replacement theology, where, according to the Torah perception of the whole of history and the role of Israel in history, the people of Israel, which includes both those who are hereditary heirs of the tradition of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob through their birth, and also all of those who attach themselves to the people of Israel through Giyur, through conversion, that this nation is a nation who have a mission above and beyond that of all the other nations of the world, and that is to use the distinctive power of mankind, which is our power of speech, to affirm and to reveal that the entire creation is a unity coming from one creator with one ultimate purpose of conferring his goodness upon all of his creations through mysteries known unto himself, as they are steadily revealed through time. And replacement theology, whether it came from the Christian church, which said that, yes, we see in all the prophets that the people of Israel sinned, the tribes of Israel sinned, the 10 tribes were taken into exile for their idolatry, and then Judah and Benjamin were taken to exile for their sins, that, as it were, God somehow replaced the children of Israel as his chosen people with a new entity known as the Knessia, the gathering, which in the English language is translated as the church. And then there's another form of replacement theology, which is brought down by the followers of the Islamic prophet. That is, that somehow, God forbid, the prophecy of Moses could, God forbid, somehow have been superseded, and that therefore no longer is the prophecy of Moses in the Torah above all. Now, both of these directions are replacement theology, and I'm bringing this into the discussion now because there are certain very obvious candidates for for the Anti-Krechts. I've seen among the names touted the former President of the United States, Barack Obama. I've seen recently a new name touted, that of Elon Musk. Now, these are very interesting ideas, and I have seen various little short videos on YouTube where anybody can say anything unless it really violates the fundamentals of contemporary political correctness. But if it doesn't, anybody can get up and shoot their mouth off in any way they want. And one particular suggestion which has been made about the contemporary manifestation of this Anti-Krechts is a rabbi that has emerged in the land of Israel in recent years and is gaining a great deal of increasing amount of publicity, and a very special individual that I would like to discuss today. And this is Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, known to an increasingly wide public as the Yanuka. Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri is now in his mid-30s. The expression the Yanuka is based upon a word in Aramaic, which is the equivalent of the Hebrew word yonek, referring to a baby, a suckling babe. The root yanak is for a baby to suckle, and a yonek in Hebrew, a suckling babe, and in Aramaic, a yanuka, is an expression that is found in the Holy Zohar to refer to a literally child prodigy in Torah. There is a case in the Holy Zohar of a particular individual, a child that is called the Yanuka, and is said to have died very young also, and said to be buried in the Galilee in Israel. And the term Yanuka in the context of Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri refers to his phenomenal knowledge of the Torah, a knowledge that is beyond the ability of regular people in our age to actually attain. Rabbi Be'eri comes from a family that spent time in Spain in his childhood, and he had as a child a very unique proficiency in the study of the Torah. And this developed, he was, like many of the most outstanding of the Torah sages, one who did not follow the normal path of young men that study the Torah in the context of a Talmud Torah or a yeshiva. He was very largely either privately taught by some distinguished rabbis from his family, which has a very, very distinguished pedigree, both from the side of his father and his mother, and he is said to be descended both from the Kabbalistic giant of the 1600s, the Ari, and also from the Hasidic giant, Rabbi Levi Yitzchok of Berdichev of the late 17 and 1800s. And I will come in a moment to the greatness of Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri in Torah. Despite his tender years, he is a person that, as you can see from these pictures of Torah lectures that he gives, is listened to by elders, by young men, by people with gray beards and with white beards, people of all ages, and people who have been connected with the Torah and studying the Torah throughout their lives. A very extraordinary thing in our age that a person of this age would have such a following. Here we see Rabbi Be'eri in conversation with one of the leaders, the Hasidic leaders of our time in Jerusalem, the leader of the Toldos Aaron movement, the Rebbe of Toldos Aaron, literally a person that has a most tremendous charisma. And so it's really quite extraordinary that one finds on YouTube some people who are claiming that Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri is actually this so-called alleged Anti-Krechts that is supposed to arise at the end of time. And I cannot help laughing and smiling as I discuss this, because the idea is so outlandish and ridiculous. It is quite clear that Rabbi Yehuda Shlomo Be'eri, Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, has both the qualities of supreme wisdom and of leadership at this tender age. Largely self-taught, with hours and hours of poring over the Torah text. Here is somebody who literally has in his memory and in his ability to recall not only all of the written Torah, that is to say the entire Tanakh in Hebrew, the Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, with all of their commentaries, which you can recall word by word. But more than that, the far more extensive and voluminous literature of what we call the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is now recorded in books, both the Talmud and all of its commentaries, and the Midrash, the allegorical and aspect or level of the Torah, and the level of the Kabbalah. All of this literature in all of its details, all of the different authors, Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri is able to recite by heart in public with instant recall. I've heard him do this. It's quite extraordinary, and no wonder whatever that we do see all of these people attending his Torah classes completely enthralled by the breadth of Torah knowledge and the depth of Torah knowledge that he displays. And the Jewish people are not going to be fooled by some little miracle worker who comes along, and a few people, one comes with a bad flu, and somebody else comes with a hurt shoulder, and somebody else with another whatever family issue, and they all come to him and they tell her their problems, and he makes miracles, and they all run away and say what a wonderful miracle worker he is. Jewish people, those who are educated, which in the land of Israel today includes literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men who are studying the sacred literature every day of their lives, and have been doing this from very tender age. These are people who have not had to learn the language of the Torah, the Hebrew and the Aramaic, because at least in the land of Israel, they've been brought up with the knowledge of these language, certainly the Hebrew language, and Aramaic is a kin language, and these people are not easily fooled by some faker. And the people whom you see attending Rabbi Be'eri's classes, the Anuka's classes, his shiurim, are people with extensive knowledge over vast areas of the Torah themselves, but they sit at his feet because of the mastery of the Torah that he displays. Now, such knowledge, a person with such obviously what we would call a photographic memory, there are those who have said, well, such a soul comes into the world once every 500 years. Well, I don't know exactly who makes these decisions. I would say that there have been very close competitors to Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri in our generation. For example, it's perfectly obvious to anybody who's looked at the writings and teachings of the late Lubavitcher Rebbe that he was a world-class Gaon, a luminary, the like of which was seen in previous generations in the greatest names of the past. And this is true of certain select others. And quite clearly, Rabbi Shlomo Be'eri, the Yanuka, has been blessed with what we would normally consider to be a paranormal, a supernatural gift of Torah teaching, a rare soul that has been brought down. There have been similar souls, for example, or comparable souls, the soul of Rabbi Elijah, the Gaon of Vilna, who at a very tender age had a mastery of the Talmud, which is enormous literature. People who are not familiar with this literature just simply do not understand how vast it is, with all of the commentaries, and how you can only attain it by poring over the books day and night, year after year, with absolute assiduous devotion, until you get this divine spirit that enables you to go and start putting it all together in speed until you get if you have the divine gift, you may get it. The Gaon of Vilna, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, is credited with having a knowledge of Torah such that the entire Torah literature was before his eyes. Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Ari, whom I mentioned earlier as a forebear of Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, passed away at the age of 38. And in the introduction written by his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, his principal disciple, to the work Shevachei Ha'ari, the praises of the Ari, which is a series of biological vignettes of the life of the Ari. Rabbi Chaim Vital describes the Ari as one who literally saw all of the worlds in front of him, the divine worlds, angels. He could understand the conversations of trees and birds and all of the things attributed to the most outstanding of the Kabbalists, all the generations. Now, I've not heard this about the Yanuka today, the understanding of the languages of birds and trees, though maybe he does have it. If he does, he doesn't speak about it. What is particularly special about him and so beloved about him is the language of love and peace and respect for one another that he speaks. In his Torah discourses, he may go off into the most abstruse levels of discussions, but he always returns to the fundamentals, which are so important for our age, of learning to quit this constant disparagement that so many are showing for anybody who differs with their views, to learn that we have to respect and accept one another. And indeed, he has a very, very beautiful way of speaking, a manner that's very gentle and very loving, and simply his manner is so engaging and so charismatic to those who are hearing him. Another very beautiful aspect of him is precisely his music, which you can listen to if you'd like to open up your YouTube at some time and just put in the name of Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, or just the Yanuka. You will come up with many, many videos of his very, very haunting and awesome compositions, which are also many of them with very beautiful graphics, and there are some videos telling the story of his life. And the fact of his playing music, I think, is particularly important because clearly from the book of Tehillim, the Psalms, the ultimate leadership of the Jewish people, of the people of Israel, is the leadership of a king who draws people to prayer. And prayer is song, and song is prayer, the authentic song, not the song of unholiness of the contemporary popular entertainment, but the true song of the soul is the song of prayer and devotion and attachment to God. And not only this, but also song is the very key to the way that God Almighty governs his universe, through these awesome melodies of the heavenly beings, of the the stars and the planets of the angels and the processes of nature, the earth itself, all of which have their own song, each of the different species, each of the different birds and animals and other creations all have their songs. And to bring out the music is something that is a real chidush, something new and original in our generation. So now, what is all this about these people on in their new YouTube contributions trying to dampen down all the enthusiasm and say, no, this cannot be possibly what we're really waiting for and looking for. This person is hypnotizing the masses and fobbing them off with false miracles, and this is an Anti-Krechts. Well, now, the only way that I can typify and characterize this is by saying this is precisely an example of the evil eye of Bilam. Bilam, the fake heathen prophet, the idolatrous prophet, whose purpose was to obscure and prevent the revelation of the truth. His goal was to twist and distort the Torah and the upholders of the Torah, the people of Israel. God put a halter in his mouth. God prevented Bilam from saying what he really wanted to say, the horrible demonization of Israel, which he wanted to bring forth from his mouth, to bring, God forbid, a curse for the generations. He was forced to bless Israel. And as our rabbi said, from the beauty of his blessings there in the portion of Balak in the latter part of the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, from the very beauty and greatness of his blessings, we see just how really he wanted to, God forbid, curse the people. And here, by taking a phenomenon like Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, and there on the internet video that I saw, there were little snippets of his performances. There were snippets of people coming up to request his blessings. There were snippets of people talking about the effectiveness of his blessings. What is the evil eye that gets into somebody who is so intent on parading their own idol that they cannot see actually what is happening here? Here is a person who in 21st century Israel, a country that is filled with challenges, where not only are we faced with rockets coming in from our neighbors, not only are we faced with the threat of terrorist attacks in the country. At a bus stop, a car comes and rams children. At other cases, the most horrendous terrorism. And within the society, the most extraordinary fissures, divisions between those who uphold the Torah and those who oppose the Torah, who do not want to be limited by the Torah. And to succeed in bringing together such a variety of people from different backgrounds of Israeli society, to succeed in having them sit for hours listening to Torah lectures, enthralled by the words of a person who has all of the holiness of the Torah coming forth from his mouth. And when people in desperation, people with no livelihood, people with terrible cases of children who are sick, people with terrible illnesses themselves, relatives and others, people who are victims of the terror attacks, when they come to such an outstanding Torah scholar and righteous sage and request for him to bless them, that is called that he's God forbid, a false Messiah. We will not be fooled. This will not be fooled by this folly, this stupidity of this idea that this is the any kind of false Messiah. If you're looking for a false Messiah, go straight to Rome. The address is a place called the Vatican, where you'll see a figure in a white robes who's saying that everything that the Torah prohibits should be permitted, that everything the whole Torah holds sacred should be abolished. And there, if you want an Anti-Krechts, there you have one. If you want to Anti-Krechts, go to the World Economic Forum and their leader and look at their project to rid the world of faith, to replace faith with the belief in the power of the government to run everybody's lives in a just and fair way. If this is not a covering over of divinity, then what is? And here there are so many candidates, and these people with their narrow view come to place the holy sage, Rabbi Shlomo Yehuda Be'eri, in the same category as these other figures who are literally working to destroy the world as we know it, to depopulate the world, to cause people to die, cause people to lose any trace of traditional faith and the values of family and the sanctity of life. If those are not the Anti-Krechts, then who is? And to call a holy rabbi like this, we hope that there will be many, many more like him in the people of Israel, that he will have many, many students who will follow in his ways. We see how many people who attend his Torah lectures are inspired to follow his ways of peace and loving kindness. And that surely is the way that anybody who truly wants an anointed Messiah should be following. It's no good to say the anointed Messiah comes out and destroys anybody besides himself who's doing something good in the world. That's not Messiah. That's idolatry to say, my guy is the big guy and your guy is nothing. That is not any kind of sense. That is the evil eye of Bilam. And so, my dear friends, I plead with you and pray that we will truly be inspired by this outstanding Torah sage who has respect for all of the true sages of the Torah, who teaches from Reb Nachman, who teaches from Lubavitch, who teaches from the Tanakh, who teaches from the Talmud, from the Midrash, from the Kabbalah, all with the goal of turning our hearts to true repentance. So let us be more sensible and more sane when we are trying to determine who exactly is the Anti-Krechts and who is not. And let us truly follow the ways of the true anointed of King David, preaching the way of righteousness and justice and goodness to all. And with that, my dear friends, may we fortify ourselves in preparation for the coming month of joy, the month of Adar.